Chief Marketing Officer for Blue Jeans by Verizon. And I'm here today with Ed Diver, CIO of Digital Realty. And we're here to talk about the journey to a hybrid workplace. And in particular, really thrilled to hear from Ed, who's got some interesting lessons learned over the last year and interesting ideas around what might be coming down the pike as we think about the new normal. And so, Ed, I thought maybe you could introduce Digital Realty. I think probably a lot of people know about your company, but maybe just give a high-level overview, and then we can dive into the fireside chat here.
Sure. Sounds good. Thanks, John, for having me today. I really appreciate it. For those that don't know, Digital Realty, we're the largest data center provider in the world. We've got over 275 data centers across the world the last time I checked, and in 24 different countries around the world. So a huge global span of control around the world for our customer base, and just thrilled to be here. I've been the CIO for digital for the last 3 years and counting. It's been quite an interesting ride. I was actually retired before I joined the company, and it was such a compelling, model that we've got within the company, such a compelling time in the world that it just prompted me to come out of retirement and come back to work. So it's been a very fun ride with the company.
And little did you know that 2 years in, we were going to hit this pandemic that we hit a year ago. And as a company with your footprint, with the data centers all over the world, I imagine you have a lot of customers that are relying on you for mission critical operations. And I'm guessing it was an interesting time, just over a year ago, last March, when we were uh, everyone was sending employees home and figuring out how they were going to scale their operations. Can you give me a little sense for what that looked like for you, for your customers, and your employees?
Sure. So, it's interesting, John. I mean, we're so enabled with the cloud applications within our own company. I mean, we run almost everything on the cloud at Digital since I've been here. And that actually really set us up for success, as the pandemic hit. There really wasn't much of an impact to our employee base at all because our people were so distributed across the world anyway. And we had a solid stack of SaaS applications that our employees leveraged, which allowed people to just seamlessly work from any place in the world. There were probably a few things that we really hadn't anticipated, in that switch. And a couple of those things you and I've talked about in the past is, nobody anticipated that they'd have a bunch of kids running around their house on computers as well, trying to learn, their school lessons, et cetera, at home. We didn't think about having, spouses and children alike, on our internet connections at home trying to get the job done and kids trying to learn. And then, I'd say lastly, we really didn't anticipate, what this was going to be like to be really cooped up at home for months on end. I mean, the whole concept of a vacation anymore, I think, is just lost on everybody. It seems like it's walking around the block, and we've relabeled those things in our company as staycations anymore because nobody's going anyplace. So on the employee front, though, I think the challenges for us were pretty slight, actually, because we were so used to operating this way. For our customers, it was certainly different. A lot of our customers, their networks and their infrastructure and the way that they operated their applications, they really weren't ready for this. And, it had some pretty large scale impacts on many of the customers, that we do business with. And of course, we were introducing new products at the time, which we believe actually made quite a remarkable difference for a lot of our customers because it helped them distribute their architecture and their compute infrastructures across the world so that they could ultimately get to, more of a office-like operating environment for their employees operating at home. But it's definitely been a journey for many, many companies. And as you can imagine, if you were running a lot of on-prem applications in the traditional kind of centralized data center model within your company, it's likely been very challenging for those people.
I'm curious. So, with a business like yours, you're onboarding customers, you're trying to share, with them all your capabilities, and so forth. How did it work for your salespeople? I mean, traditionally, I'm sure you could have taken people in on data center tours and things like that. How did they manage during that period?
Yeah, it's really interesting that, the technology, that we'd implemented and, Blue Jeans being one of those things, made quite a remarkable difference for us because the first thing that we saw in the pandemic is everybody shut down travel for the most part, including us.
Mhm.
I can remember it almost to the day back in March when we started closing offices across the world and immediately curtailed all of the travel, that our employees were participating in, and our customers, it's the same situation. One of the things that we introduced just very quickly after the pandemic hit is we established these virtual tours within the data center. And we actually mocked up something, pretty simple on an iPhone,
Mhm.
or an Android device for the salespeople or the sales engineers in the facility. And when we had a request from a customer, to either inspect their facilities in some cases, or in other cases, a customer that was interested in touring the facility, it actually proved to be more valuable for us than what we were actually doing with the in-person tours because the sales engineer on the site could visit any part of the facility. We had the connectivity in place to allow them to stream that live as they walked around the facility. And from the customer standpoint, it was actually better for the customer too because they weren't taking time away from their day to travel. We were able to reach many more people from the customer. So, oftentimes these tours, they're limited to a specific number of people that can afford to travel from the customer side. And that opened that up to a much broader range of individuals that could participate. And then, just the interaction with the engineer, that was very, very similar to what we would see when we were normally doing a tour. I mean, certainly is a little bit different to be glued to a computer screen,
Mhm.
but I think it really worked out well, and the feedback that we received from customers was just phenomenal. In fact, I would say the number of tours and things that we were actually conducting at the time has actually gone up significantly as a result of this. And so it's actually been great from our standpoint. I think we will always do.
It's really neat to hear about kind of an innovative use of technology for your customer um, outreach. Let's turn to the employees for a minute. You mentioned all the challenges we've had, being at home and vacations and all those things. How about, maintaining culture or, like, I don't know if you've hired at all during this period, but just especially with newer employees and so forth, how have you managed to sort of keep your teams communicating, collaborating, and keep up the culture, morale, those kinds of things? How's that been?
That, to be honest, John, that's probably been the hardest thing,
Hmm.
through this whole process. We went through a period where we saw productivity really increase within the company. The typical, 30 to 1 hour, 2 hour commute that a lot of our employees had, that's gone today.
Right.
Now it's, 30 seconds, right, to
Mhm.
walk from the other room. And so we saw a lot of uptick and a lot of benefits from that
Mhm.
standpoint. But the thing that we really missed was the hallway conversations, the lunch conversations, the meetings over dinner, etc. Unfortunately, those are gone too. And
Mhm.
that's had, I'd say in the early days of the pandemic, probably didn't see as much impact, but as this thing has dragged on, that has started to take a toll on the organization, and we've tried a lot of different things in that front. Kind of this open mic concept where
Mhm.
we would stand up a virtual room, if you will, that employees could come and join a Blue Jeans session, and we'd have a particular topic in mind that it was just an open forum for people
Mhm.
to come and chat. We've done the happy hours and those things that everybody has done. We tried to have a little bit of fun with that, with costume day and puppets and all kinds of crazy stuff like that the engineers get into on those kinds of activities. Just things to sort of keep it light.
Aside,
Um,
hopefully, we're getting through some of this a little bit, getting the vaccinations out and all that good stuff. How are you thinking about the post-pandemic workplace? I think it's on the minds of most IT leaders and UC leaders around, how are we going to end up staging this? What do I need to, how do I plan for it? I know every different organization might have a different set of thoughts around, are people coming fully back in? Is it going to be more of this rotation thing, a few days in the office, a few days out of the office? Other organizations have said, hey, let's take advantage of this sort of remote work scenario so we can hire the best of the best wherever they live, and we're not going to worry about office location being as central as it was in the past. How are you guys thinking about this, and what's factoring into your planning for sort of this? Are you thinking of a hybrid scenarios for the workforce?
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned a lot of those things. As I commented earlier, a lot of that we were already doing within the company because we're so dispersed
Mm-hmm.
across the world. We had a lot of scenarios where we had employees that were actually living and operating from locations where we didn't even have a point of presence.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not really going to change for us. I think this concept of the hybrid workplace, we are definitely going to take advantage of that. I think in the old operating model, I want to say I had like 3 or 4 offices across the world with my name on the door. I'm going to try to
Mm-hmm.
get away from that and move more to this hoteling sort of concept where
Mm-hmm.
you come in on a given day, whatever day you're going to be in whatever facility it is, and you reserve a space and you grab it. You use that space for the day if you need to, or if you're there for a meeting, you're obviously reserving space from that standpoint. Um, I think in terms of how we return to work, it's going to be slower than what people think. I mean, we're far from out of the woods on this pandemic. It's great in the U.S. that we've got a pretty sizable portion of the population that's been vaccinated already, but boy, it's not so much the case in other parts of the world where we do business. In France and Amsterdam, UK, Dublin, Ireland, other parts of the world in Asia Pac even. It's been slower in some areas, and the pandemic is much more widespread. So we will obviously open much more slowly in those locations for our corporate employees to come back in the office. In some locations of the world, we've been open all
Mm-hmm.
throughout the pandemic. Singapore is a good example. They really had things under control there for the really almost since the beginning of the pandemic, and that office has remained open for us almost unanimously throughout
Wow.
the entire past year. Of course, all of our data centers have been open throughout. We put
Mm-hmm.
extra safety procedures and protocols in place that we had already outlined in our business continuity operations procedures. And literally on the day that we were closing, off corporate offices, we were putting those practices in place across the data centers. And a lot of our customers really applauded us for being so far out in front of that because there's always going to be a need for people to come into the data center.
Yep.
And we'll never be able to close those. We don't want to. We want to make sure that we provide a safe environment for our employees there, but also for our partners and the customers, as well, because they have to be in the facility from time to time. And we've got to make sure that we can facilitate that and make the transition for them easy to come in there and get done what they need to do and then, head back to their either home or to their normal place of work, throughout the day. So, um, I think the other thing that's really played in here too is some of the technology that we've rolled out in the last couple of years. Platform Digital is a key product that we've rolled out across the organization and have started selling that very effectively across our customer base. That really helps people distribute their IT workload, if you will, around the
Mm-hmm.
world, putting the workload close to where the people are and reducing the latency and increasing the throughput so people have a better experience, because I know many companies really suffered from that at the beginning of the pandemic. It was great that they had some of the capabilities of the technology, but if their network didn't support it or the employee's home network was a trouble spot, they would still run into some issues on that. And we've seen just a tremendous uptake that, consuming that technology from our side of our company as well, which I think has made a remarkable difference for a lot of our customers.
Well, it's impressive to, if you think about what increasingly becomes a work from anywhere world, that ability to have the workloads move around and be dynamic and shift to where the people are is really a big part of that hybrid workplace. And that's one really critical piece. And on our side, one of the conversations we're hearing a lot from customers is what do those office, you mentioned the hoteling kind of idea. In other cases, people are trying to figure out how do we operate conference rooms, even if we're vaccinated. Is everyone really comfortable crowding into a conference room? Maybe not. Maybe it's half capacity. We've added to our own rooms software this touchless room scenario where you don't have to touch anything. I can walk in, have the meeting on, and the other thing that's been critical is sort of this ability to mix and match. We've all used multiple conferencing apps over the time period, and so one of our heritage plays is interoperability and sort of being able to help be a Swiss Army knife for both the IT and the facilities groups as they're planning their conference rooms to say, hey, these need to be able to work not just with BlueJeans, but with Microsoft Teams or some of the other providers, and be that sort of software layer that allows you to interoperate with all the different conferencing tools that are out there and make that easy. So you've got the work from anywhere, a little bit of the choose your own tool. Some larger organizations might have more than one, and make that sort of seamless for the employees. So that's all part of some of the things that we're working on. Yep. Well, Ed, I really appreciate your taking the time today. We touched on a lot of topics, and I hope for the audience that this has been valuable. I certainly think about how you get your head around 275 data centers and all the customers, and operating through the pandemic and helping everyone stay up and running and connected. It's quite a mission, and I'm sure your team has been working really hard, and they deserve some credit, but appreciate your sharing your lessons learned with the audience today, and thank you very much.
Well, thank you, John. It's a pleasure to be here, and really appreciate the opportunity to share at least a little bit of what we've been trying to do on the digital realty side, both internally and helping our customers as well, as they build out their facilities, whether it's within their own sites or whether they're building out within our infrastructure. We're always here to help. We're always here to share, learnings and practices that we put together that can help our customers. I mean, I've got a huge IT department spread across the world, and I'm happy to spend time with folks whenever that opportunity comes up to just share the lessons that we've picked up on as we've gone along the way. I mean, I've made my fair share of mistakes over the many years that I've been in this business, so I've got a few horror stories to tell and some lessons learned that go with it.
That's great. So yeah, any of you in the audience want to take Ed up on his offer? We'll make sure that we connect you afterwards. So we'll send out a follow-up email if you register, and make sure if you have questions you can reach either of us. So thanks again for your attention, everyone, and best of luck planning your hybrid workplace strategy.